Subscribe to Dr. Khalkar's Classroom channel and press the bell icon to get latest updates. Hello everyone, I hope you are doing great. In my previous lecture video, I have discussed about introduction to magnetism and its basic terms. In this lecture video, I will discuss about origin of magnetization and its classification. So let's get started. The content of this lecture video is as follows. First of all, I will discuss about origin of magnetization, in which I will explain orbital motion of electrons, the electron spin and the nuclear spin. Followed by I will explain classification of magnetization, in which I will explain diamagnetism, paramagnetism, ferromagnetism, ferrimagnetism and antiferromagnetism. So let's see first of all origin of magnetization. Magnetism originates from the spin and the orbital magnetic moment of an electron. Magnetic properties of solids arise due to electrons undergoing different motions in atom. These motions gives rise to magnetic dipole moments. In general, the magnetic dipole moment of the atom arises because of three sources. Let's see these sources one by one. First of all, orbital motion of electrons. In orbital motion of electrons, inside an atom, electrons move around a nucleus in specific orbits. Each electron orbit is equivalent to a tiny current loop. It behaves as an elementary magnet having a magnetic dipole moment. The sum of orbital magnetic moments of individual electrons generates the total orbital magnetic moment of an atom. It can be shown that elementary electron magnetic moment is given by Bohr magneton, which is mu b is equal to Eh upon 4 pi m. That is equal to 9.28 into 10 raised to minus 24 ampere meter square. The diagrammatical representation of orbital motion of electrons is shown in this diagram. It shows electron which moves with velocity v and produces a current I. Now let's see the second source of origin of magnetization, which is the electron spin. As shown in this diagram, the spinning electron and the orbiting electron are shown. Each electron is spinning about itself and this gives rise to a magnetic dipole moment. So this is one of origin of magnetization. The electron spin magnetic moment is represented by mu subscript s is given by mu s is equal to g into small e upon 2me into capital S. This equation we can simplify as mu s is equal to gamma into capital S, where this gamma is equal to small g into small e upon 2me, which is called as a gyromagnetic ratio or G factor. So in this equation, small g is a gyromagnetic ratio, small e is the charge on electron, m subscript small e is mass of electron, and this s is nothing but the ms h bar, which is the angular momentum, which is a spin quantum number. In this equation for the electron, the G factor is equal to minus 2.0023, whereas the spin quantum numbers are plus half and minus half. The spin quantum numbers are represented and shown here in this diagram. The electron spin is shown in this animated diagram, in which the down spin left hand side and the up spin right hand side of electron are shown. In this diagram, capital L is a angular momentum and capital S is a electron spin momentum. Now let's see the third origin of magnetization, which is the nuclear spin. The nuclear spin is represented here in this diagram. The nucleus has its own rotational motion like the Earth and the Moon. The rotational motion is called nuclear spin. The precession of a nuclear spin It's shown here. The axis of nuclear spin shows the precessional motion when a magnetic field is applied along the tilt direction. The precessional motion of nuclear spin has a proper frequency specified by the kind of atomic nucleus. In the nucleus spins around itself and it also contributes to magnetic movement of atoms due to magnetic field produced by protons. It can be shown that elementary nuclear magnetic moment is given by mu capital N is equal to Eh upon 4 pi mp, that is equal to 5.05 into 10 raised to minus 24 ampere meter square. The magnetic moment of the nucleus is about 1 upon 1837 of the magnetic moment of the electron. Therefore, in studying magnetic properties of solids, the magnetic moment due to nuclear spin is neglected. Now let's see the classification of magnetism. The origin of magnetism lies in the orbital and spin motions of electrons and how the electrons interact with one another. The best way to introduce the different types of magnetism is to describe how materials respond to magnetic fields. This may be surprising to some, but all matter is magnetic. It's just that some materials are much more magnetic than others. The main distinction is that in some materials there is no collective interaction of atomic magnetic moments, whereas in other materials there is a very strong interaction between atomic moments. The magnetic behavior of materials can be classified into the following 5 major groups. First, diamagnetism. Second, paramagnetism. Third, ferromagnetism. Fourth, ferrimagnetism. And fifth, antiferromagnetism. So let's see all these groups one by one. So let's see first group of magnetism, which is diamagnetism. Diamagnetism is a fundamental property of all matter, although it is usually very weak. It is due to the non-cooperative behavior of orbiting electrons when exposed to an applied magnetic field. Diamagnetic substances are composed of atoms which have no net magnetic moments. That is, all the orbital shells are filled and there are no unpaired electrons. However, when exposed to a field, a negative magnetization is produced and thus the susceptibility is negative. That is, the value of Xi is negative. Diamagnetic materials are substances which, when placed in an external magnetic field, develop a weak magnetism in opposite direction of the external magnetic field. The atoms have very small magnetic moment. They slightly repel the magnetic lines of forces. For example, are the bismuth, silver, copper, and hydrogen. So these are the diamagnetic materials. The diamagnetism is shown in this diagram. The relative permeability is slightly less than 1 for the diamagnetic materials. That is, mu r is less than 1. The diamagnetic susceptibility is very small and negative, that is, Xi is less than 0. It is due to the repulsion experienced by diamagnetic materials when placed in a magnetic field. Now for diamagnetism, if we plot a graph of magnetization and the magnetic field, we see that when the field is 0, the magnetization is 0. The other characteristic behavior of diamagnetic materials is that magnetic susceptibility and the temperature, which is dependent as shown in the right hand side graph. Some well-known diamagnetic substances in the units of 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram, which includes quartz, that is SiO2, has the value minus 0.62, calcite CaCO3 has minus 0.48, and for the water it's minus 0.90. So this is the comparison of magnetization and magnetic field and the magnetic susceptibility with the temperature, which are shown in both these graphs. Now let's see one problem which is based on the diamagnetism. A diamagnetic material Al2O3 is subjected an external magnetic field of 10 raised to 5 ampere per meter. Evaluate magnetization and magnetic flux density in Al2O3. Given parameter, that is magnetic susceptibility of Al2O3, is minus 5 into 10 raised to minus 5. Now let's see solution of this numerical. We have formula. Magnetization capital M is equal to Xi into capital H, where capital M is equal to minus 5 into 10 raised to minus 5 into 10 raised to 5 ampere per meter. Therefore, we have capital M is equal to minus 5 ampere per meter. Similarly, magnetic flux density, we have formula capital B is equal to mu naught in bracket capital H plus capital M. So capital B is equal to 12.57 into 10 raised to minus 7 Henry per meter into 10 raised to 5 ampere per meter. So finally we have capital B, that is magnetic flux density, is equal to 0.126 Weber per meter square. So this is the solution of this numerical. Now let's see the second class of magnetic materials, that is paramagnetism. Paramagnetic materials are substances which, when placed in a magnetic field, acquire a small magnetism in the direction of the magnetic field. The atoms are slightly oriented along the direction of the external magnetic field, which are shown here in this diagram. The paramagnetic materials attract the lines of forces slightly, for example, which are aluminum, tin, magnesium, etc. The relative permeability of these materials is slightly above than 1, that is mu r is greater than 1. Similarly, the paramagnetic susceptibility is less than 1 but positive, that is Xi is less than 0. It is due to the slight attraction of magnetic field when these materials are placed in a magnetic field. In paramagnetic materials, some of the atoms or ions in the material have a net magnetic moment due to unpaired electrons in partially filled orbitals. One of the most important atoms with unpaired electrons is iron. However, individual magnetic moments do not interact magnetically, and like diamagnetism, the magnetization is zero when the field is removed. In the presence of a field, there is now a partial alignment of the atomic magnetic moments in the direction of the field, which resulting in a net positive magnetization and positive susceptibility. In addition, the efficiency of the field in aligning the movements is opposed by the randomizing effects of temperature. This results in a temperature-dependent susceptibility known as the Curie law. At normal temperatures and in moderate fields, the paramagnetic susceptibility is small, but larger than the diamagnetic contributions. Unless the temperature is very low, that is lower than 100 Kelvin, or the field is very high, paramagnetic susceptibility is independent of the applied field. Under these conditions, paramagnetic susceptibility is proportional to the total ion content. Many ion-bearing minerals are paramagnetic at room temperature. Here are some examples with the units of 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram, which includes montmorillonite clay with 13 into 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram, nontronite, that is Fe-rich clay, 65 into 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram, biotite, which is silicate, 79 into 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram, siderite, which is carbonate, 100 into 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram, pyrite, which is sulfide, 30 into 10 raised to minus 8 meter cube per kilogram. The paramagnetism of the matrix materials in natural samples can be significant if the concentration of magnetite is very small. In this case, a paramagnetic correction may be needed. Likewise, diamagnetic materials. For the paramagnetic materials, plot of M versus H is shown here, which shows the values of M, which is linearly increases as the value of H is increases. Similarly, the plot of magnetic susceptibility versus temperature for the paramagnetic materials is shown, which shows that at lower temperature, the magnetic susceptibility value is higher, but as the temperature goes on decreasing, its value goes on decreasing. That is, the magnetic susceptibility is inversely proportional to the temperature. Now let's see the third class of magnetic materials, which is ferromagnetism. When you think of magnetic materials, you probably think of iron, nickel, or magnetite. Unlike paramagnetic materials, the atomic movements in these materials exhibit very strong interactions. These interactions are produced by electronic exchange forces and result in a parallel or anti-parallel alignment of atomic movements. Exchange forces are very large, equivalent to a field on the order of 1000 Tesla or approximately 100 million times the strength of the Earth's field. The exchange force is a quantum mechanical phenomena due to the relative orientation of the spins of two electrons. Ferromagnetic materials exhibit parallel alignment of movements resulting in a large net magnetization even in the absence of magnetic field. A relative term is the saturation magnetization, which we can measure in the laboratory. The saturation magnetization is the maximum induced magnetic moment that can be obtained in a magnetic field, which is represented by capital H subscript SAT. Beyond this field, no further increase in magnetization occurs. The diagrammatical representation of ferromagnetism is shown in this diagram. Ferromagnetic materials are metallic crystals which, when placed in an external magnetic field, become strongly magnetized in the direction of the field. These materials are strongly attracted by a magnetic field. For example, iron, steel, nickel, cobalt, etc. For ferromagnetic materials, the relative permeabilities of these materials are much greater than 1 and dependent on the field strength, that is, mu r is greater than 1. The ferromagnetic susceptibility is greater than 1 and positive, that is, Xi is much greater than 1. It is due to the large attraction of magnetic field when placed in a magnetic field. Above the Curie temperature, that is capital T subscript C, ferromagnetic materials behave as paramagnetic materials and their susceptibility is given by the Curie-Weiss law, which is defined as Xi is equal to capital C upon capital T minus capital TC, where capital C is the material constant, T and Tc are temperature and Curie temperatures. Ferromagnetic materials are special types of metals where electrons spin the same direction called domains. The domain structure of ferromagnetic materials is shown in this animated diagram. Domains maintain the dipole north and south and of the similarly spinning electrons. The bar magnet in the model represents the dipole of the domain, which is the same as each individual electron. Iron, cobalt and nickel are common ferromagnetic elements having domains. Some alloys, which are mixture of two or more metals, are also ferromagnetic. For ferromagnetic materials, the characteristics of magnetization versus applied magnetic field is shown in this graph. The difference between spontaneous magnetization and the saturation magnetization has to do with magnetic domains. Saturation magnetization is an intrinsic property independent of particle size but dependent on temperature. There is a big difference between paramagnetic and ferromagnetic susceptibility. As compared to paramagnetic materials, the magnetization in ferromagnetic materials is saturated in moderate magnetic fields, and at high temperature, that is room temperature, the values of H saturation in Tesla and temperature in the range of degree kelvins for the paramagnets and the ferromagnets are shown. For the paramagnets, the H saturation is less than 10 Tesla, whereas for ferromagnets it is nearly 1 Tesla. The temperature ranges for the paramagnets is less than 100 degree kelvins, whereas for ferromagnets it is nearly 300 degree kelvins. For ferromagnetic materials, even though electronic exchange forces in ferromagnets are very large, thermal energy eventually overcomes the exchange and produces a randomizing effect. This occurs at a particular temperature called the Curie temperature and which is represented by capital T subscript C. Below the Curie temperature, the ferromagnetic material is ordered and above it disordered. The saturation magnetization goes to zero at the Curie temperature. A typical plot of magnetization versus temperature for magnetite is shown here, in which the magnetization becomes zero at Curie temperature is equal to 575 degrees Celsius. The Curie temperature is also an intrinsic property and is a diagnostic parameter that can be used for mineral identification. However, it is not foolproof because different magnetic materials, in principle, can have the same Curie temperature. One of important property of ferromagnetic materials is hysteresis. Hysteresis occurs in a system that involves a magnetic field. Hysteresis is the common property of ferromagnetic substances, generally when the magnetization of ferromagnetic materials lags behind the magnetic field. This effect can be described as the hysteresis effect. The meaning of hysteresis is lagging. Hysteresis is characterized as a lag of magnetization intensity, capital B, behind the magnetic field intensity, capital H. All ferromagnetic materials exhibit the phenomena of hysteresis. In addition to the Curie temperature and saturation magnetization, ferromagnets can retain a memory of an applied field once it is removed. This behavior is called hysteresis, and a plot of the variation of magnetization with magnetic field is called a hysteresis loop. The hysteresis loop shows the relationship between the intensity of magnetization and the magnetizing field. The loop is generally by measuring the magnetic flux coming out from the ferromagnetic substance while changing the external magnetizing field. A typical hysteresis loop is shown in this figure. Now let's see the next class of magnetism is ferrimagnetism. In ionic compounds such as oxides, more complex forms of magnetic ordering can occur as a result of the crystal structure. One type of magnetic ordering is called ferrimagnetism. A simple representation of the magnetic spins in a ferromagnetic oxide is shown here in this diagram. The magnetic structure is composed of two magnetic sublattices called A and B separated by oxygens. The exchange interactions are mediated by the oxygen anions. When this happens, the interactions are called indirect or super exchange interactions. The strongest super exchange interactions results in an antiparallel alignment of spins between the A and B sublattice. In ferrimagnets, the magnetic moments of A and B sublattices are not equal and result in a net magnetic moment. Ferrimagnetism is therefore similar to ferromagnetism. It exhibits all the hallmarks of ferromagnetic behavior: spontaneous magnetization, Curie temperatures, hysteresis, and remanence. However, ferro and ferrimagnets have very different magnetic ordering. Magnetite is a well-known ferrimagnetic material. Indeed, magnetite was considered a ferromagnet until Neal in the 1940s provided the theoretical framework for understanding ferromagnetism. Magnetite Fe3O4 crystallizes with a spinel structure. The large oxygen ions are closely packed in a cubic arrangement and the smaller Fe ions fill in the gaps. The gaps come in two flavors: tetrahedral site. Fe ion is surrounded by 4 oxygens, and second one is octahedral site. Fe ion is surrounded by 6 oxygens. The tetrahedral and octahedral sites form the two magnetic substances. The tetrahedral and octahedral sites form the two magnetic sublattices A and B respectively. The spins on the A sublattice and antiparallel to those on the B sublattice. The two crystal sites are very different and the result in complex forms of exchange interactions of the ion between and within the two types of sites. The structural formula for magnetite is Fe3 plus A, Fe3 plus, Fe2 plus, BO4. This particular arrangement of cations on the A and B sublattice is called an inverse spinel structure. With negative AB exchange interactions, the net magnetic moment of magnetite is due to the B site Fe2 plus, as shown in this diagram. Now let's see some problems which are based on the ferromagnetic material. First, find the relative permeability of ferromagnetic material if a magnetic field of strength 220 ampere per meter produces magnetization of 3300 ampere per meter in it. The solution of this problem is as follows. We have formula relative permeability, that is mu r, is equal to 1 plus xi, that is magnetic susceptibility. So mu r is equal to 1 plus m upon h. So we have values. So by simply putting the values in this formula, we can write mu r is equal to 1 plus 3300 ampere per meter divided by 220 ampere per meter. So after calculating this, we got mu r is equal to 16. So this is the relative permeability. Now let's see one more numerical. The area of hysteresis loop drawn between B and H is 100 meter square. Each unit space along the vertical axis represent 0.01 Weber per meter square, and each unit space along the horizontal axis represents 40 ampere per meter. Determine the hysteresis loss per cycle. The solution of this problem is as follows. The hysteresis loss per cycle is equal to area of hysteresis loop into value of unit length along B axis into value of unit length along H axis. Therefore, the hysteresis loss per cycle is equal to area of hysteresis loop is 100 meter square into value of unit length along B axis is 0.01 Weber per meter square into value of unit length along H axis is 40 ampere per meter. Therefore, after calculating this, we get the hysteresis loss per cycle is equal to 40 joules per meter cube. So this is the solution of this problem. Now let's see the another class of magnetism is antiferromagnetism. Antiferromagnetic materials are crystalline materials. In the presence of the strong magnetic field, antiferromagnetic materials are weakly magnetized in the direction of the field. This property of the materials is called antiferromagnetism. The magnetic moments of the atoms are aligned in opposite directions and are equal in magnitude. Thus, when unmagnetized, their net magnetization is zero. The examples of antiferromagnetic substances are MnO, FeO, COO, NiO, chromium, manganese. The diagrammatical representation of antiferromagnetic materials with its domain and field direction is shown in this diagram. The magnetic spins in antiferromagnetic oxides is shown in this diagram. If the A and the B sublattice moments are exactly equal but opposite, the net moment is zero. This type of magnetic ordering is called antiferromagnetism, which is shown here in this diagram. The clue to antiferromagnetism is the behavior of susceptibility above a critical temperature, called the Néel temperature and represented by capital T subscript capital N. Below Néel temperature, the material behaves as an antiferromagnet and above which the material behaves as a paramagnet. Antiferromagnetic materials exhibit a small positive susceptibility of order of 10 raised to minus 3 and 10 raised to minus 5 from 0 Kelvin to nil temperature and show antiferromagnetic behavior. Above nil temperature, the susceptibility show paramagnetic behavior. Above nil temperature, the susceptibility obeys the Curie-Weiss law for paramagnets but with a negative intercept indicating negative exchange interactions. In antiferromagnetism, the graphical representation of susceptibility with temperature is shown here, which clearly shows the nil temperature Tn. Hematite crystallizes in the corundum structure with oxygen ions in an hexagonal closely packed framework is shown here. The magnetic moments of the Fe3 plus ions are ferromagnetically coupled within the specific C planes but antiferromagnetically coupled between the planes. The diagrammatical representation of antiferromagnetism with crystal structure of hematite and canted antiferromagnetism is shown here. For antiferromagnetic materials, a spontaneous magnetization, which is represented by sigma subscript capital S, versus temperature is shown in this graph. Above minus 10 degrees Celsius, the spin movements lie in the C plane but are slightly canted. This produces a weak spontaneous magnetization within the C plane where spontaneous magnetization sigma s is equal to 0.4 ampere meter square per kilogram. Below minus 10 degrees Celsius, the direction of the antiferromagnetism changes and becomes parallel to the C-axis. There is no spin canting and hematite becomes a perfect antiferromagnet. This spin flop transition is called the Morin transition, which is shown in this graph. Now let's see the comparison of diamagnetics, paramagnetics and ferromagnetics materials with their properties. Let's see first property, behavior in external magnetic field. Diamagnetic materials develops a weak magnetism in opposite direction, whereas paramagnetic materials develop a weak magnetism in the same direction. And in ferromagnetics, which develops a strong magnetism in the same direction. Second property, that is alignment of magnetic dipoles in external magnetic field. For the diamagnetics, it is opposite direction and weak, which is shown in this diagram. Similarly, for the paramagnetics, it is same direction and weak, which is represented again here in this diagram. And finally, for the ferromagnetics, same direction and strong, which is represented here in this diagram. Next property is response to external magnetic field. For the diamagnetics, slightly repelled by the external magnetic field, whereas for the paramagnetics, slightly attracted by external magnetic field. And for the ferromagnets, strongly attracted by the external magnetic field. Next property is relative permeability, that is mu r. For diamagnetics, mu r is less than 1. For example, for bismuth, it is 0.00083. For paramagnetic materials, mu r is greater than 1. For example, aluminium, which has the value 1.0000065. Similarly, for the ferromagnetics, the relative permeability value mu r is very much greater than 1, which has, for example, Fe, which has over 1 lakh. Next property is magnetic susceptibility. For the diamagnetic materials, magnetic susceptibility is less than 0, which is very small and negative. For paramagnetic materials, magnetic susceptibility is less than 1, but it is positive value. Whereas for the ferromagnetic materials, it's very much greater than 1, that is very high. Next property is effect of temperature on susceptibility. For diamagnetics, susceptibility is independent of temperature, where for paramagnetics, which obeys the Curie law, that is susceptibility is inversely proportional to the temperature. And for the ferromagnetics, susceptibility decrease with temperature in complex way. Next property is Curie point. For the diamagnetic materials, there is no Curie point, as well as for the paramagnetic also. For the ferromagnetic materials, The Curie point have definite value. Next property is hysteresis. Hysteresis does not exhibited for the diamagnetic materials as well as the paramagnetic materials, whereas for the ferromagnetic materials, hysteresis exhibited. For examples of diamagnetics are bismuth, silver, copper, hydrogen, etc., whereas paramagnetic materials are aluminum, tin, magnesium, etc. And the ferromagnetic materials are iron, steel, nickel, cobalt, etc. So this is all about the classification and the distinguishing points between diamagnetics, paramagnetics and ferromagnetics materials. Now let's see magnets have domains aligned. The unaligned domains in ferromagnetic metal is shown in this animated diagram. The difference between a ferromagnetic material that is not magnetized or magnetized depends on domains being aligned. The term soft can be used to describe ferromagnetic metals that do not easily remain magnetized. Iron and nickel are soft, domains becomes unaligned, losing magnetism when a magnetic field is removed. The term hard describes ferromagnetic metals like steel that keep domains aligned after a magnetic field is removed. Now let's see what is an induced or temporary magnet. Domains aligning in a magnet is shown in this animated diagram. An induced or temporary magnet is created when a soft ferromagnetic material is in the presence of an external magnetic field. Domains align and that object becomes an induced temporary magnet. When the external magnet field is removed, magnetism will easily be lost. Now let's see what is permanent magnet. A permanent magnet is different than a temporary magnet because a hard ferromagnetic material is placed in a strong magnetic field. Domains align with a magnetic field and maintain that alignment after the magnetic field is removed, which is called as a permanent magnet. Now let's see what happens if you break a permanent magnet. Breaking a permanent magnet creates two weaker magnets. The dipoles would be aligned the same direction as previously. The opposite poles would be next to each other and attract. See how the north of one piece is next to the south of the other is broke form, which is shown in this animated diagram. The inherent cause of magnetism, electron spinning direction, remains the same. Now let's see the compass. A compass rotating in a magnetic field is shown in this animated diagram. A compass is a magnet that is free to rotate when interacting with a magnetic field. The earth itself acts like a magnet, believed to be caused by current in its outer core. When a magnet is brought close to a compass, the stronger local magnetic field will interact with the compass. This is all about origin of magnetization and its classification. In my next lecture video, I will discuss about applications of magnetic materials. So please don't miss my next lecture video. Thank you. Below this video, in the description, the link of important information related to this video is given. Please go through it. Please like and share this video and subscribe to Dr. Khalkar's Classroom channel to get the notifications about my upcoming videos. Thank you.